What's up folks, Mike for CMCC Builds here, and we made it, part 3 of the Gauntlet. The Nuclear Wizard build video, the Gauntlet intro, and part 1 and 2 will all be in the description below. If you're new to the series, be sure to check those out before diving into this one. If you like this series, like the video, comment, subscribe so I can keep making more. If you want to support the channel and get some cool perks, Patreon is linked below. Thank you to all of my patrons, you guys are amazing. Special thanks to Party of 2 for the maps this week. They are beautiful, and yes, they are very large. And before anyone comments that I chose a huge map for some nefarious purpose or favoritism among classes, I'm gonna nip that in the bud right now. These maps were chosen because they were the most aesthetically pleasing temple maps that I could find when prepping for this encounter. Is that the best reason to choose a map? No, but I'm working in a visual medium, so it's a primary consideration as far as I'm concerned. Does this type of map favor particular builds over others? Almost certainly. If you have thoughts on that, please leave them in the comments below. Once again, I want to thank RT who designed the encounters, Oddfather who DM'd the Gauntlet, and Gil who piloted the Nuclear Wizard. You guys are awesome, and this series wouldn't exist without you. Finally, if you'd like to see other people taking their own builds through gauntlets like this one, I'm thinking specifically about other YouTube channels, major D&D optimizers, I think you know who I'm alluding to. Let me know in the comments below. Better yet, let them know in their comments in Discord channels and Reddit communities. I've discussed the possibility of collaborations with a couple of big YouTubers, incredibly nice guys, but nothing is set in stone, so any lighthearted, well-meaning pressure couldn't hurt.
Wink, wink.
A quick recap of parts 1 and 2, and resources expended. The level 14 Harengon Nuclear Wizard traveled into the dangerous temple catacombs with 2 sidekicks, a simulacrum, and his trusty owl familiar. They made it past level 1 of the catacombs, losing his familiar in the process. On level 3, the simulacrum was lost, when the strategic ploy to trap a poltergeist in a wall of force failed to keep Sim alive. Nuke, angry at himself for not having upcast Armor of Agathis with his simulacrum instead, preps for the short rest the party earned after retrieving the ghost's heirloom jewelry. All told, Nuke has used all 5 first level slots, 2 second level slots, 3 third level slots, 2 fourth, a 5th, and a 6th. He also expended a single use of his rabbit hop feature and 1 potion of healing. During the short rest, Nuke recovers his Warlock spell slot and uses Arcane Recovery to regain the remaining first level spell slots and a third level slot. With health running a bit low, Nuke rolls 5 hit dice to regain 27 hit points. The Warrior burns a bonus action and second wind to recover a quick 21 hit points and 2 more hit dice for another 19 hit points. The Kenku, who had a rough go of it in part 2, eats up 14 hit dice to jump up 81 hit points. With the final leg of the journey ahead of them, as their rest concludes, Nuke takes 30 minutes to cast 3 Phantom Steed rituals, giving the entire team a massive mobility boost. Nuke does this in response to the previously large map, not in anticipation of the big maps to come. With the preparations complete, Nuke and his sidekicks approach the temple door. What lies beyond? Let's find out. Roll initiative. Here we have priests, veterans, and a lumbering clay golem guarding the passageway to the main temple chambers. Here. After poor initiative rolls in part 2, the adventurers put together some quality rolls, and all 3 go before Team Monster. Round 1, the expert opens the door and charges forward on his Phantom Steed. The Kenku passes a room filled with enemies and shouts at Nuke to do his thing, as the Birdman rushes ahead right into a veteran and a priest. With a bonus action helpful, the expert takes a shortbow shot at the lower AC priest with disadvantage. It may have made more sense to back away first to avoid firing in melee, but at this angle he runs the risk of giving up cover to the target. Either way, a 2 is still enough to hit the priest and deal 20 piercing. The steed then dashes away from melee, and the veteran chooses to reserve his reaction for a stronger target than the ghostly horse. Nuke, knowing exactly what he needs to do, gallops ahead, gets a nice look at the area filled with priests and veterans, and fireballs the entire room for 41 fire damage. Every single enemy fails their saves, killing both priests and leaving the 3 veterans in a world of hurt. The warrior steed darts forward and splits the enemies, tactically attacking the same priest as the expert. The orc misses with a nat 1, but follows up with a 29 for an easy hit and 14 slashing. That's enough to finish off the weak priest. These enemies have decent spells and can pack an okay wallop, but have terrible AC and hit points that makes for easy work for the melee combatants like the warrior. The golem lumbers toward the ruckus, dashing for an amazing 40 feet of total movement. The last remaining priest scoots forward onto the fantastical floral growth and lets loose a guiding bolt at the Kenku. An 8's not gonna do it. The veterans converge on the expert in the middle passage. The first unsheathes a short sword to match his longsword and attacks 3 times, but is unable to touch the lithe archer. The second veteran gets a hit with both the longsword and shortsword for 17 damage. The veteran to the east tries his luck against the orc he's engaged with and lands a single blow for 5 slashing. The final 2 vets, unable to enter melee, take out their crossbows and blast the Kenku for a combined 15 damage. Round 2. The steed disengages, bonus action helpful, and the Kenku lets loose another arrow from his short bow, this time at the priest. A choice to not focus fire on the veterans actually pays off as a 13 just hits the priest for 18 piercing. Nuke steps out from the doorway and casts my favorite spell when meticulously tracking every single action and movement, Animate Objects. He's thrown out adamantine fragments and animated them. We're assuming the wizard has both silver and adamantine at his disposal at this high level. Will nearly every wizard at this level have both on their person for encounters like this? Yes. Should Nuke have it for this gauntlet? Debatable. Let me know in the comments below. The lone animated shard attacks the priest, while the remaining 9 objects attack the surrounding vets. Several hits and a couple crits later, the priest and the veteran perish. The warrior aggressively dashes toward the primary melee, eating an opportunity attack from the formerly engaged veteran at 11 slashing damage. Hoping for the one-shot kill, the orc takes a swipe at the injured vet, but misses with a 15, but follows up with a crit on a 19 for 20 damage. This puts the veteran down, but allows the flanking vet to live to see another turn. The golem continues to push forward. The northernmost vet rushes the wizard, eating an opportunity attack, but getting off 3 attacks of his own. The 24 is out of shield range, landing for 9 slashing. The damage isn't much, but it forces a concentration check, which Nuke passes easily. The eastern veteran takes a shot at the Kenku, hitting for 2 damage. The last veteran lands a single short sword attack on the warrior for only 4 slashing damage. Round 3, same song and dance for the expert. Bonus action helpful and a short bow attack that unfortunately misses. The objects then whoosh back to defend their creator, surrounding the wizard's attacker and dealing a combined 22 damage. 2 more shards attack the vet, engage with the orc, both hitting for 13 damage. Nuke follows up with a Toll of the Dead for 17 necrotic. The warrior chops the veteran for 10 slashing, ending his night and life, then slides back to create some cover for the Kenku. The golem keeps marching toward the intruders as the veteran attacks Nuke 3 times, hitting once and forcing another concentration check. Nuke maintains con without an issue. These minimum DC checks only have a 10% chance of failure with Nuke's +7 to Constitution saves. The rear veteran pushes in behind the golem and takes a shot at the orc, but misses with a 13. Round 4, the expert takes aim at the golem. At the last second, he decides to protect his spellcasting ally and hits the veteran in front of him for 18 damage, still alive. But on Nuke's turn, the objects do a quick 7 damage, dropping the vet to 0. Nuke follows up with a Toll of the Dead for 13 necrotic damage to the approaching golem and orders the animated objects to get in formation, ensuring the maximum number of opportunity attacks as the construct chases down Nuke. The warrior also takes the dodge action, standing his ground as the last line of defense for the Harengon and Kenku. The golem finally engages the orc, but needs to dash to do so, and the final vet pushes forward with no clear shot, unsheathes his sword, and dodges. Round 5, the Kenku uses the bonus action Help and attacks the golem for 19 piercing. Nuke follows up with another Toll of the Dead. The golem has advantage on the saves, but with no modifier, there's an 81% chance of failure, and it fails, taking 20 necrotic damage. The objects get their chance. The first buoyed by the Kenku's Help action does 9 bludgeoning. The remaining combined for 35 more damage. The warrior in pure defensive mode takes the dodge action again. The golem scoots around him to attack the most dangerous intruder. The objects rattle off a number of opportunity attacks, landing 6 of 7 with some good rolls. This drops the golem below 60 hit points, triggering its Berserk feature. A roll of 4 isn't the 6 needed to go full Berserk mode, but it still takes 2 slam attacks against the wizard, missing both. Not shown on the map here, but the veteran pushes forward to attack the orc, taking 7 damage for the effort. The warrior's dodge action saves it some damage as all 3 attacks miss. Round 6, the Kenku readies an attack, and Nuke's Toll of the Dead shatters the clay golem. The Kenku's held attack fires off, and objects pick away at the veteran until combat ends. With bodies littering the floor, the party navigates across the L-shaped temple passage into the enormous main chamber. On the western portion of the map, the Mind Flayer Arcanist finalizes the ritual with the help of 2 priests. The primary obstacles between them and the party are a stone golem near the chamber entrance, and 2 flame skulls and a mage at the temple archway. Roll initiative. Modest rolls from the adventurers still beat out most of Team Monster, but the priests sneak in behind the expert with a 16. Nuke enters this final combat with very little left in the tank. He has all 5 first level slots available, a single 4th level, and the Big Daddy 7th level slot. Will it be enough? Round 1, the expert steed dashes past the golem, avoiding its melee range. The Kenku fires his short bow at a flame skull, but misses with a 14 when the arrow slams into a protective magical force. The flame skulls have mage armor precast by the mage. The priests, not yet ready to join the battle, cast Sanctuary on themselves. Nuke's Phantom Horse dashes as far as it can travel, and the wizard uses his final 4th level slot to cast the all-star spell of part 1, Sickening Radiance. Not wanting to bunch up too closely together, the warrior stops his horse in a back corner and readies an attack for any enemies that come into range. The stone golem can't quite reach the orc after dashing. The Arcanist chooses to skip his turn, still holding out hope he can complete the ritual without entering the fray. With the Flame Skulls and Mage up next, they each roll saving throws against Sickening Radiance. 2 fail and take 27 radiant damage. The Flame Skulls then float outside the radiant sphere and blast fireballs at the party. The decision to keep the party out of fireball formation has failed, and each of the 3 is forced to make a dex save. They all fail exactly one of those saves, taking between 22 and 25 damage. Nuke uses his reaction and first level slot to cast Absorb Elements, reducing the concentration check DC to 10 for both checks, but immediately rolls a nat 1 for an 8 total and drops concentration on the Radiance, rendering the second concentration check's nat 20 irrelevant. The Mage follows up by casting Sleet Storm on the entire party, a fantastic spell that causes difficult terrain, heavy obscurement, forces concentration checks, and the possibility to knock characters prone. This can change the entire course of the combat. Round 2, the Kenku succeeds on his save to not fall prone, then pushes forward through the icy precipitation, holding an action to fire an arrow when an enemy is visible. Nuke's turn begins, and he also makes the save to not fall prone. Understanding the severity of this spell, the Harengon throws up a blindfolded Hail Mary, a level 7 freezing spear. A rabbit hop moves him up 20 feet, and he lets loose the evocation spell with a 120-foot diameter, that's 24 squares, and it manages to hit exactly one person, the Mage. But at least it hit him, because after a failed save, that 45 damage kills the Mage and causes the Sleet Storm to drop. With the storm gone and line of sight on the Flame Skull's return, the expert's readied action goes off, but a nat 1 auto misses. The warrior gets aggressive and moves up to join his companions. 2 javelin tosses later, and one of the Flame Skulls is down. The golem dashes up to the orc, waiting to unleash its attack in a future round. The Arcanist, still not ready to engage, continues the ritual, functionally skipping his turn. The final Flame Skull retreats and casts a level 1 magic missile on the Kenku, dealing a skimpy 6 force damage. Round 3, the Phantom Steeds fading away from the fireball damage, the Kenku bonus action dashes after the Flame Skull. His shortbow attack misses, the fiery head with a 13. A little too close for comfort, the Arcanist motions for the priest to engage. They trot down the stairs and blast guiding bolts at the expert for 15 damage. Nuke rabbit hops ahead, then rains down a Toll of the Dead on the Flame Skull. Despite advantage, a +0 mod makes failure the likely outcome, and indeed, it fails for 12 radiant damage. The warrior tries to match Nuke and aggressively dashes ahead. All 3 characters have bonus action movement features in this party, but unlike Nuke's, this doesn't prevent the golem from taking an opportunity attack. The orc's forced to eat 19 bludgeoning. The warrior, so used to the expert's helpful action every turn, takes a javelin attack with advantage, and actually crits, but for only 12 damage. The effect on the outcome is likely negligible here. The second javelin comes in hot for another 9 piercing. The golem dashes again. The party's solid movement abilities have done wonders this encounter to functionally force the golem out of the combat thus far. Seeing all 3 party members so close to the ritual site, the Mind Flayer Arcanist chuckles and throws the party in a closet with the golem. The Flame Skull takes the opportunity to choose self-preservation, casting Blur on itself. Round 4, the expert can't push through the wall of force, so he readies the dash action. The priest's bonus action casts spiritual weapons and dodge, while Nuke's contingency goes off, dimension dooring him behind the Mind Flayer. He then conjures a bonfire underneath the Arcanist in hopes of continually causing concentration checks to shut down the wall of force. And wouldn't you know it, the first con check results in the Flayer dropping concentration on the spell. The walls are down. The expert's readied movement pushes him forward 30 feet. The warrior uses the bonus action aggressive feature to dart across the room, attacking the 20-foot high floating Flame Skull with disadvantage due to blur. He still manages to hit with 1 javelin attack. Or does he? The Flame Skull casts shield, deflecting the projectile into the wall. The golem dashes, still unable to make an attack on its turn. The Mind Flayer pushes past Nuke and casts another wall of force on the wizard. It's at this point, Nuke is really regretting not learning the Misty Step spell and instead relying on his springy legs for bonus action movement. The Flame Skull casts a level 1 magic missile at the Kenku for 12 force damage. Round 5, the Kenku is momentarily skipped due to player error, and the priest kicks off the turn with a couple of spiritual weapon attacks. The first hits the orc, and the follow-up misses the Kenku. The priests use their action to guiding bolt each sidekick, missing with both. They then retreat back to the steps. The expert gets his turn, bonus action disengaging from the golem and taking an unhelped shot at a priest. He crits for 13 piercing. Those extra 46 points of damage would have gone a long way in this encounter, but it's not to be. Nuke, trapped in a force stone of emotion, readies another cantrip. The warrior, seeing his friend in danger, rushes the Mind Flayer, attacks him with javelins. The first hits with a 19, but a shield spell changes that outcome. The second javelin hits with a 20, even through the shield, dealing only 8 damage. The javelin is still enough to force a concentration check that fails with a nat 1. Nuke is free. His bonfire flares up, dealing 17 damage to the Mind Flayer, who, despite advantage, is unable to make the save. The Golem moves into melee with the Kenku and absolutely wrecks him. The first attack hits, downing the expert, and the next attack auto-crits, causing 2 failed death saves. It's not looking good for the Birdman. Seeing 2 enemies in his sights, the Mind Flayer looses his Mind Blast, hitting both Nuke and the Orc, who both fail their save. They each take 18 psychic damage and are stunned. Stunned is bad. With the Kenku down, the battle is all but lost. The Flame Skull fires off a level 1 magic missile at the wizard. The priest Sacred Flame the Herringon Heathen, who auto-fails his save because he's stunned. At the end of their turns, Nuke actually makes a save, but the warrior can't shake off the effect, still stunned. The Golem, admiring his work with the Kenku, watches the remainder of the combat from a distance. The Arcanist wants to finish the job. He lines up his enemies and blasts them with a lightning bolt. Nuke saves and casts Absorb Elements, dropping the damage from 32 to 16 to 8. Nuke has 1 hit point remaining, but the warrior fails and drops unconscious. The expert dies as the priest approaches the nuclear wizard. Bloodied and battered, it's clear he's at death's door. The priest racks her brain. Does she have any auto damage spells? Only one, Spirit Guardians. Nuke starts his turn with 1 hit point and immediately drops unconscious to the flittering spirits. With the expert dead and the warrior unconscious, there is no one left to bring Nuke back short of the gods themselves. Nuke has failed. See you here next time, folks.